right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. This is Bob Pompeani. We're live tonight in the Fan Cave at 412-575-2600 on a weekend that had a lot of stuff going on. We will get into that with Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan, PM team. And Andrew, yesterday, lots in just one day to unpack. I want to begin with the Steelers. We're going to get to James Franklin in a second, but the Steelers defense, my biggest takeaway is watching this team get more physical each and every week over the last 3 weeks. It started in that New England game where they got lucky, some would say, but they also forced turnovers, 5 of them, and they did it through physical play. They had 8 quarterback hits in that game against Drake May, and then they followed it up in Ireland by hitting Carson Wentz 14 times, and there were turnovers in that game. And then yesterday, I don't know how Dillon Gabriel even survived given the pressure he was under, as they have combined now for 17 sacks in 3 games. That's a Steeler defense that can make things happen, and quarterbacks are going to have to be aware of every one of them coming at different times because they were all over Cleveland yesterday.
Yeah, now it's Joe Flacco who can't move. I watched him against the Packers after the Steelers game yesterday, and it's funny, the way he tries to run, he thinks he can still move, but he can't. It's really comical, actually. But as it turns out, no, this is now outside of Denver and the Broncos' 30 sacks. No team has more than the Steelers. And they put 6 on the board against the Browns, and not only did they get after Dillon Gabriel, but they made sure that Keyshawn Judkins, the rookie running back that Mike Tomlin was singing the praises of last week, never got going in this game either. There were no explosive runs. There were no back-breaking runs. There were no field-flipping runs, none of that stuff. And really, Cleveland had to abandon the run game. First, it seemed like they did so voluntarily, which I thought was weird. You're down 6 points at halftime. You get the ball back. They want to throw the ball, Bob. That did not make sense to me, given the fact that they had a rookie quarterback here with very little in the way of great wide receiver play. And so the Steelers, I think the Derek Carman move has been a huge addition for this team as far as what he's brought to their front 7 attack. Nick Herbig getting healthy after that early season hamstring injury, and Jalen Ramsey being able to play everywhere, come down to the line of scrimmage and help against the run, but also what he does when he's a deep safety and a corner with 2 sacks. So, this defense now, Tomlin said historic things, and we laughed at him for 2 weeks, and they deserved it with the way they played against the Jets and Seahawks. But now that they're healthy, Bob, they have rebounded in a big way.
And they're going to take on a Cincinnati team that's having problems protecting the quarterback no matter who it is. Before I get on with Mike Tomlin's comment today about Andrew Berry, I want to remind you, you can hit us up at KDKA-TV/connect. It's our Penn West University poll question of the night, and this one's an interesting one. It happened 65 years ago. Bill Mazeroski's Game 7 walk-off against the Yankees, or the Immaculate Reception. Which is a greater moment in Pittsburgh sports history? You can vote at KDKA.com/connect. As far as out of the blue, Mike Tomlin goes after Andrew Berry, which is unusual for Mike Tomlin. He normally stays away from this sort of stuff, but he was asked point blank what he thought about that trade, because a lot of us had questions of what are they doing in Cleveland, and he pretty much echoed what I think a lot of us have said. Were you surprised he did it in that press conference setting?
How do I want to answer this question, Bob? Geez, now you're really... I know you get in these situations, too, where it's like, do I tell the truth here or do I tell a little white lie? No, I was not surprised. Look, you can argue it both ways. One argument is Joe Flacco was not going to play again for them this year because they're out of it. They need to play young guys to see what they have. So getting something for him is better than nothing, you could say. But there's also the idea that you'd rather have Joe Flacco.
What did they get, really? They swapped draft picks. That's all they got. And they were low-end draft picks. It's almost like they gave them away.
Yes. That's better than nothing. It's not a lot, but it's not nothing. But then the other argument is you keep him around and you help him nurture Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, which obviously they did not put a high price tag on. So I would not have done it for what you just described, such a cheap figure. And it's just, the thing I'll say about this is it's a little bit strange to me that Tomlin seems so bothered now twice this year about the prospect of playing Joe Flacco at the end of his career. I really don't understand it. He made the point last year about the Colts game. He volunteered that information out of nowhere this year. And now this story that is like, oh, man, why are you making us play Joe Flacco? You should not have traded Joe Flacco in the division. And it's just odd to me, Bob, that he has such strong feelings on that.
Well, I mean, he had 2 touchdown passes when he was with the Colts against them, and you know he's seen him when he has an opportunity to deal with him, and he probably thought Jake Browning was a better match for them. And all of a sudden, here he is, a team, you know, that needs quarterback help, got it from a team in the division. Right, we're way over. We'll take a break. We got a lot of people on the lines tonight, so call us at 412-575-2600. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA+. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night. Comes from Jerry Dulac, our insider with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco will only be the only third time in NFL history 2 40-plus quarterbacks will start against each other. Brady and Brees did it twice in 2020. A lot of age, a lot of experience on the line on Thursday night in Cincinnati. Andrew, we have a lot of people on the line, so I want to get right to them if we can, and we'll get into some other topics that we have here. But first, let's go out to our number one Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night, and that would be Kirk in Manor. Hello, Kirk. What's going on?
How are you guys doing tonight? Hey, I have a quick question. You tell me what you think. How many professional teams outside of the Eagles share their home turf with the college team, and do you think that's wise? Because the professional turf should be professional turf.
Well, first of all, I don't know off the top of my head, Andrew. I'm sure you have one of those memories that you would have some. But to me, it's not that big a deal. I would prefer if Pitt had its own stadium. I've said that for many years. They don't. This is the arrangement they came up with. And quite frankly, if you're referring to yesterday, it's funny to me how this whole thing, nobody was on that surface for 2 weeks. And the last time Pitt played there was no issues whatsoever. And there hasn't been a game since. So Make of it what you will. It was a bad condition, no question. It nearly cost Boswell an injury, Andrew, but, you know, they're going to play WPIAL games there, whatever the case may be. They have shows there. A lot of stadiums do this kind of stuff. So I'm not sure what the reason was. Was it unacceptable? Yes, but they've fixed it. It's already halfway removed.
Well, I think they're lucky they dodged a bullet on Boswell, because if he got hurt because of the turf there, it would have been the biggest topic coming out of the game, and it still nearly was because of what Aaron Rodgers said. And Aaron Rodgers opened up a can of worms because he made it sound like that could have been the reason why Killebrew blew out his knee. He brought up how much usage the field gets, which obviously is talking about Pitt. Called out guys' footwear and whether or not they were wearing the proper cleats, which I thought was interesting. But then the other one was, and this is the thing that if I were the Rooneys, I would be like, wait, what the heck? Is he basically made it sound like the Packers spare no expense when it comes to treating Lambeau Field, and the Steelers need to do the same thing, is how I read those comments or heard those comments. So I think Aaron Rodgers has mainly 99.999% of the time here been a very model citizen, has said the right things. But I think he was just so disgusted with the field conditions yesterday that we saw what happens with Aaron Rodgers sometimes, which is the filter gets turned off, and this happens with older people, and they just say what they think. And he did that at the podium, and I'm sure the Steelers and probably the people that run Acrisure Stadium didn't really appreciate those comments.
Let's go to David in Washington on line 2. He's our next caller. What's up, Dave?
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Hey, listen, Bob, you mentioned this being the 65th anniversary of the Pirates winning the World Series. And recently I read an article by Mike Huber, and of all people, Yogi Berra, when the Yankees were in the clubhouse after the game, Roger Maris wondered out loud, what just happened to us? And Yogi Berra, very matter-of-factly, said this quote to Roger Maris: "We just got beat, Roger, by the damnedest baseball team that me, you, or anyone else ever played against." And Berra wasn't my favorite, but I think he's 100% right on that. And when people still wonder how the Pirates beat the Yankees, the word team is something that gets tossed around a lot. but I truly believe that's why the Pirates won.
Well, listen, if you look at it, and David, thanks, I appreciate it. They were outplayed, outscored a lot in that series. They just happened to have the 4 games they needed to outscore the Yankees, including that bottom of the 9th walk-off winner, which has never been duplicated. It was a phenomenal series. I was born in that time, 1960, so I don't remember ever watching it other than on tape like everybody else has in my age bracket. But man, this question we have is a good one tonight, because the Immaculate Reception was something that triggered a whole turn of a franchise. And this Game 7, man, what it meant for the Pirates coming back and beating that team of all teams, the Yankees. I mean, both to me, it should be 50-50 here, and it's 55-45.
Well, the one thing I'll say about how I feel about events that happen now, in both cases more than 50 years ago, and in one case exactly 65 years ago, is that with Mazeroski, it was a World Series Game 7 walk-off, something we have not seen since, and it directly led to a championship here, and probably the most celebrated baseball championship in this city's history, I would say, even ahead of the '79 team. As far as the Immaculate Reception goes, we've never seen probably a crazier play in a playoff game to end a game in NFL history. And yeah, eventually they went on to win 4 Super Bowls. But they didn't win the Super Bowl that year, and they didn't win the Super Bowl the next year either.
Right.
They didn't win it until '74. So that's why when we're splitting hairs here and parsing things on this topic, for me personally, not having lived through either event, obviously, it would have to be the 1960 World Series with Bill Mazeroski, for me.
Yeah, I get it, because it did end in a World Series championship with one swing of the bat. I get it. But both, we're lucky to have seen a lot of great events here in this city over the years, and those two are right at the top of the list. All right, let's move on to Lenny in Ritchieville. What's up, Lenny? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Bob?
Good. What's up?
My question is, what do you guys really think of Will Howard? Do you think he has an actual shot?
I do.
Be the Steelers franchise quarterback.
I mean, he has all the things you would look for.
Me and Bob like him.
Yeah, I do. I whether or not he gets a legitimate opportunity down the road, we will see. I thought he would have gotten it this year, and then he got injured, Andrew. But he has all the things you would like. Maybe his arm strength isn't what some of these guys are, but he makes good decisions, and he did so in some of the biggest games of Ohio State's season, and to me, that matters.
Yeah, we got ridiculed for saying we liked him as a prospect better than Drew Aller before the season started. Look, I think at this point, okay, as I see the Steelers, you've got Aaron Rodgers, who, if I could convince him right now to come back for next year, I would. Now, we saw Russell Wilson get worse as the season went on, and the same thing Ben, his final couple years. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed in my pockets right now that doesn't happen this season with Aaron Rodgers, but so far so good. And I like so much what I've seen. I'd like to continue that relationship. I do have hope for Will Howard, even though I'm disappointed that this year was a complete waste and we didn't see him in the preseason. And Bob, I'm also not enamored with the college quarterbacks coming in. I'm not someone who looks at this crop of college quarterbacks and says, yeah, there's somebody that I like so much more than Will Howard, whether that's now the kid at Indiana, the Oregon quarterback who lost on Saturday, the Alabama quarterback now has made strides since they lost that Florida State game and has put himself into the conversation to some extent. So we're halfway through the college football season, but the names that we thought would be on the board, Arch Manning, Drew Aller, Klubnik at Clemson, all of those guys have had miserable, miserable seasons.
Yeah, and it goes to show you got to wait and see how it plays out before you make those declarations, and it has completely changed since the beginning of this season. We're going to take a break. We have Joe in New Kensington. We also have Bert in Rostraver. We're going to take those calls. One of them wants to talk about James Franklin. We'll do that when we come back right here on KDKA+. Bob Pompeani, Andrew Fillipponi back with you. Let's go to the phone lines. We have Joe in New Kensington. Hey, Joe, go ahead.
Hey, Bob, what's up?
Go right ahead, sir.
I was just curious who's going to replace James Franklin since the Nittany Lions fired him.
Yeah, I mean, FanDuel, Andrew, do a lot of work with them, and I'm curious the names there, but I've heard some that we expect to hear on the top of that list, Matt Rule being one of them. You brought up Urban Meyer. I think that'd be an interesting selection, but I also think there are going to be some bigger names who currently have jobs who may want to move to a bigger program, and Penn State's is a good one right now. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. You know, I think Matt Rule is the guy that everyone's going to connect to this job because he's an alumnus, and he typically has done very well every college stop he's been at. Baylor, Temple. He's doing an okay job at Nebraska. They're ranked right now.
Yeah.
He's also lost 17 in a row against top 25 teams. So I don't know how you could justify firing James Franklin, giving him all that money, and then hiring someone, Bob, who's literally got the same exact problem. He can't beat good teams. So I would not really be in love with hiring Matt Rule if I were Penn State.
I think that's an excellent point you bring up. Real quick, kudos in your prediction. The Bills would lose tonight in Atlanta. They did. And right now the AFC is falling apart, and watch out for Kansas City.
And watch out for the Colts, Bob,
Yo.
who you and me said before the season. And speaking of Penn State, Tyler Warren, 3 straight games with a touchdown.
Yeah.
That offense is loaded with playmakers. Absolutely loaded now that Jonathan Taylor's back.
Man, he's been unbelievable, 5-1, and he has done some great things over there in that 6-game span. Pony, thanks, appreciate it. We'll do it again tomorrow night.
See you, Bob. Thank you.
All right, that's Andrew Fillipponi. I'm Bob Pompeani. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it again, as I said, tomorrow night, 10:35. Call us with your take on whatever's going on. The Penguins will be in action tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff to cover with you. Call us every night, 7 nights a week.